Today's talk title is called The Blessings of Diversity. And diversity, however, has not always been considered a blessing. June 12th is the 47th anniversary of a holiday called Loving Day. Now, it's not a national holiday. And how I got into this, how I found out about this, was there was news on NPR about the re-release of the 1936 version of Showboat.
Yes.
It's been re-released on DVD, and San Francisco Opera is running Showboat currently. And answer this musical question. Fish gotta swim and birds gotta fly. Showboat tune. What you might not know is it's sung by the woman who is biracial, who gets fired from her job because she's biracial. And the sheriff comes to arrest her because she's married to a white guy. And this is the issue that they were tackling in the 1926 musical. Interracial relationships, the tension, rights. In 1926, they were trying to tackle it on the Broadway stage, which marked the first time a serious subject was on Broadway, as opposed to just Ziegfeld Follies, where people got up and sang fun songs and it looked good. They were tackling a real concern, a real issue, a real race relation issue of the day. Loving comes from their names. Mildred and Richard Loving were sentenced to a year in prison, in jail, for violating state law. In 1967, they went to court to fight the miscegenation laws, which were on the books in 16 states. So they were an interracial couple that was going to go to jail because of their marriage. They got married in D.C. where it was legal, but they lived in Virginia. And they pointed at their marriage certificate when the cops came in, and they said, "That's why we're arresting you." So the decision by Chief Justice Earl Warren, marriage is one of the basic civil rights of man, fundamental to our very existence and survival. The freedom to marry or not marry a person of another race resides with the individual and cannot be infringed upon by the state. Happy 47th anniversary. That's worth applauding, yes? Awesome. Barbara's a lawyer. She remembers when it was passed. So my mother taught me something that I now know is not true. Mom taught me in good faith. She taught me purposely to help me, but she taught me something I now know is not true. She taught me sticks and stones can break my bones, but names will never hurt me, except when those names are in legislation. When did she say this? When did she say this? She said this after someone had called me a name. This was her balm. This was her soothing for when I was called a name. Probably was my older brother's. It's just, I lost track. And it did comfort me. She did her best at the time to comfort me from pain. But I now know this is not true. I know the power of words. I know that they have real potential to hurt in a real way. So words can hurt. You may be familiar with Masaru Emoto. Masaru Emoto wrote a book called The Messages in the Water. And he believes that human consciousness has an effect on the molecular structure of water. And yes, Reverend Carroll says, and everything else. Let's start with water, though, first, okay? As part of his research, he put water in containers and then played different types of music for the different containers. Then he froze the water. And classical music, the ones that listen to classical music, right? The water that he played the classical music for produced these beautiful crystals when the water was frozen. And heavy metal music produced disfigured and deformed crystals. But in a free society, I will defend your right to listen to heavy metal if you want to. I just choose not to. He also experimented with rice in water. What he did with rice in water, he put in 3 beakers. He put 3 beakers with rice, and he covered them with water. And for 1 month, he said, thank you to the first beaker. Thank you. Thank you. For what? For being you, rice, that's for you. Thank you. The second beaker, he said, you're an idiot. And I'm making sure not to look at anybody when I say that. You're an idiot. And then the third beaker he ignored completely. Completely ignored the third beaker. After a month, the first beaker was starting to ferment and create a pleasant smelling kind of aroma. Turned a little on a yellow tinge, but it actually looked healthy. The second beaker, the rice turned purple and black. And in the third beaker, the rice started to rot. Emoto's work demonstrates a connection between our consciousness, our words, and the effect that they have on our world. Positive words create positive results. Repeat that after me. Positive words create positive results. If we consider Emoto's work, then we know that words have a real effect on the physical universe. Words have a real effect on the physical universe. From the Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching was a book written 2,000 years ago by a man named Lao Tzu. Tao, which is the force, the way, God, perfect intelligence, but he calls it Tao. Tao produces 1. 1 produces 2. 2 produces 3. And 3 produces myriad things. Myriad things backed by yin and embracing yang achieve harmony by integrating their energy. 1, 2, 3, everything. 1, 2, 3, everything. As a musician, I often say things from a musical perspective. So let's look at the reading from the Tao Te Ching from a musical perspective. We start with 1 note. La, 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 1 sound. It isn't actually 1 sound, it's a variable sound, but we hear it as 1 sound. We hear it, we interpret it as 1 thing coming into the sound waves, hit our eardrums, and they vibrate. And so there's a lot going on, but we hear 1 thing. 1 thing. Most of the time, 99% of the time, we can't tell that there's multiple things going on when we hear that 1 note. La, but you can't make a song out of 1 note. And no one will pay you to come and sing on 1 note. 1 note doesn't make a song, it's just 1 note. And even what I'm doing right now is multiple things. So if I just went, for as long as my breath would hold, that's not a song. If we have 2 notes, la, la, all of a sudden we have something different. La, 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 la. However, you have a small interval or a large interval, you still have 2 notes. La, la, still 2 notes. So no surprises. You can't really make a song out of 2 notes either. But 2 notes gives you the first concept of this and that. This is different from that. This is different from that. This is different. Not the same. It's different vibration. And the concept of this being different from that allows us to consider there might be something else. There might be another that waiting for us. So when we add a 3rd note, the 3rd note is this, that, and another thing. Bum 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 bum. Now there's a choice. I can go 1 to 3, or 1 to 2, or 3 to 1, or 3 to 2. I can go this way or that way. I can surprise you. I can go bum bum, which was not bum bum. When there's 3, I can make a choice. I can surprise you. It gets interesting. And as you have 3, then all of music is possible. When you get to 3, the entire musical realm is possible. So this is the creative process. 1, 2, 3, everything. Seed, soil, tomato, garden. Man, woman, child, humanity. God the Creator, God the Holy Spirit, God the manifestation on the planet in human form, all beings in spirit form manifesting on the planet. You guys know Hey Ho, Nobody Home? Hey ho, nobody home. Me, no, keep going. Keep going. Hey ho, nobody home. Me, no drink, nor money have I none. Okay, what that is a single line that becomes more complex when you just wait a little bit. We call it round, but a round was the beginning of harmony. It's where harmony started, is by people singing a single line, and somebody was kind of like late to chapel. Brother George came late to chapel, and he starts singing the psalm a few bars off the time, right? So all of a sudden we have a round. However, what happens when we see somebody who's different is a different thing. When we see somebody who's different than us, our first thought is not like, oh, they're different from me, let's go meet them. Our first thought is one that has been programmed in for us for the entire length of humanity, is when somebody is other than us, it takes us out of our stability, it takes us outside of our comfort zone, it takes us outside of certainty. If I saw someone who didn't belong to my tribe 20,000 years ago, if they don't belong to my tribe, and it's 20,000 years ago, my first thought is going to be protect my tribe. They are a threat to my food, my shelter, my DNA being passed on to my children. So we got accustomed to protection, even in the tribe setting. You've heard of flight or fight. That's a very low brainstem kind of thing. And applied to community, it means when you see somebody outside of community, somebody who's different than us, somebody who doesn't look like us, the first reaction, the natural reaction, is one of, they're not like us and I don't know if they belong here. And so that's why there's this whole business of diversity training today. Because we need to have a little help to see the similarity. Or people on a spiritual path can see for themselves the deeper truth. The deeper truth is we're all one and we're all connected. But others can trigger a response and we get afraid. And if that happens to you, it's not something that you need to judge yourself for. It's something to recognize and move beyond. It's for you to notice, I'm afraid in this moment, but I can be more than my fear. I can move past my fear. I don't have to reside in fear. I've been reading Marianne Williamson these days, and she's a student of the Course in Miracles. In the Course, Marianne points out there's only love. Love is a power for good. Only love is real. Say that out loud. Only love is real. Only love with no opposite, but we don't always operate from love. If we did, we would disappear in a ball of white light and move on to another plane. So people operate as if we're separate, different, or other. So what displaces love or the experience of oneness is fear. So you have your choice here of experiencing love or experiencing fear. And Marianne says that all the other negative emotions, jealousy, anger, irritation, distrust, all of these are some variant of fear or byproducts of fear. So to summarize this particular point, another shows up. We notice that they're different. We go into fear. We forget the love and the oneness. And so fear has displaced our ability to experience the love and the oneness that underlies everything. Fear displaces our ability to see that, to experience that love and that oneness. Even with people in our tribe or our family, if we see someone who is struggling or suffering, and we see them out there separate from us, not us, why do we put them out there as not seeing the oneness in that particular moment? Because if they're suffering and we consider ourselves as one with them, we're afraid that we're going to take on their suffering. How many of your friends have you heard this from? Oh, I hate going to hospitals. Why do they hate going to hospitals? It's because they are afraid on some level. There's a fear there on some level. And it might be the fear that they're going to take on someone else's pain or suffering. When we are present to our connection to God, then we are with them, we are one with them. We elevate our collective conscious by moving ourselves out of fear. So our goal here is to, whenever we see something that causes us to be afraid, the goal here is to move ourselves out of fear. Move ourselves out of fear. Move ourselves out of fear. Fear, move yourself out of fear. Fear, move yourself out of fear. Reestablish our connection to the whole. Reestablish our connection to love. Wake us up. When we wake up, then what happens is everyone else is elevated as a result. Not just you in your skin, not just you located in your seat, but the whole shimmers just a little bit brighter. So consider someone in your life who might be suffering or struggling, and not yourself. Consider some real person in your life who is struggling or suffering right now in this moment. Bring them into your mind for a moment. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. But fully imagine them in their current state of suffering. Allow yourself to see their pain. Allow yourself to know their pain for a moment. And repeat after me, I see you in your suffering.
I see you in your suffering.
However, I am you.
However, I am you.
And I am not afraid.
And I am not afraid.
Because I know my source.
Because I know my source.
I am not afraid.
I am not afraid.
Because I know I am one with God.
Because I know I am one with God.
In this moment when I see you suffering,
In this moment when I see you suffering,
I serve you.
I serve you.
In this moment when I see you suffering,
In this moment when I see you suffering,
I am you.
I am you.
Take a deep breath. The blessing of diversity is we see difference in another and experience a moment of fear, and then remind ourselves to return to the oneness. So the fear provokes an exercise. The fear instills in us this exercise, this practice. In order to return to oneness, we exercise a spiritual muscle. It's a spiritual muscle. The muscle of the recognition of God, the muscle of the recognition of the love, the muscle of the remembering of the oneness. What happens when you practice over and over and over again? What happens when you get good at it?
Muscle is strong.
You build your muscle, you get good at it, you get better at it. So when you practice over and over again, when you look at people, you see them differently, and then you recognize there's no difference between us. At the core of who we are, and down below the bottom of who we are essentially, there is no separation, we're one. Making that your practice, because diversity prompts a seeing someone as different, and then it's a prompt to remember we're not different, we're one. We move back into the love, and everything lifts up. So when we see somebody who's a different skin color, black, white, olive, red, yellow, or their gender, male, straight, male, female, transitioning, or declined to state, or the orientation, gay, straight, lesbian, bi, questioning, or whatever. When we meet somebody from a different country who speaks another language, or we meet a Republican, or someone from a different political party, because some of my best friends are Republicans. I had, last week we mentioned that I had minor surgery. It was very sudden. Thursday, I went into the doctor, and Thursday, 2 hours later, I went in for a checkup. And Thursday afternoon, I walked out of having the surgery completed. But the surgeon was the first time I met him, and the surgeon, I walked into his office, and his calendar was a Ronald Reagan calendar. And I just saw Ronald Reagan's picture, and I went up to look and see the next month. Yes, June, July is Ronald Reagan, August is Ronald Reagan. It was 12 months of Ronald Reagan, and I got scared. And truth be told in 1980 when he ran the first time, I voted for him, so it's like, but so when we meet someone from another culture or different from us, their presence in our field of consciousness becomes our opportunity to step into an experience of love rather than seeing the difference. An experience of oneness instead of seeing the difference. And the old adage is true. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. Okay. So, if I see someone different than me, I'm going to practice love. Say that. If I see someone different than me, I'm going to practice love. Again, if I see someone different than me, I'm going to practice love. So from the Upanishads, this is from Tulsidas Ramayana. When I do not know who I am, I serve you. When I know who I am, you and I are one. Thank you.